So I'm not a gamer. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I couldn't play any games as a kid because my brother had all of the devices, and as older brothers do, he never let me play on any of them. As a result, my hand-eye coordination sucks. Thus, I refuse to play games because I know I'll rage quit. However, there's this one game, it's a little known game called Baldur's Gate 3. And this game was made for me in the most literal sense. I have been a fan of Lord of the Rings since I came out of the womb. I'm not kidding, my parents are massive nerds. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I discovered Critical Role through my Matt Mercer deep dive because I had just finished Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 1. And thus, I was introduced to the wonderful world of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, despite the fact that I have all 3 D&D handbooks, a dice holding problem, and free time, I have never played D&D. And I'm pissed about it. In fact, I'm so pissed about it that I am literally writing my own D&D campaign based on the Lord of the Rings movies so that I can convince my parents to play it with me. So when I tell you that Baldur's Gate 3 was made for me, I mean that. In fact, I knew I was going to be so obsessed with the game, I brought it and purposefully didn't play it for a year and a half. It was brought in my Steam, but I didn't download it because I knew that I would never be able to finish my uni course if I did. And you want to know what happened when I finally started playing it? I rage quit. So I ended up playing a tiefling druid, a bisexual playing a tiefling. Groundbreaking. But I also picked druid because I really wanted to play a magical class, and playing a bard did feel a little bit too stereotypical of me. So druid it is. Immediately, I knew I wanted to find Astarion. He has white hair, he's a vampire, 2 + 2 makes 4, we're finding the vampire. The problem was my graphics card was so out of date that it never rendered anything in time, so that I was just exploring areas that weren't even loaded in. So I went to where I was supposed to find him, and he wasn't there, because he wasn't loaded in. Anyway, I found Shadowheart, I couldn't find Astarion, and I ended up picking up this chatty wizard. That'll come back to bite me in the ass later. I got into the place that Shadowheart was trying to get into while also trying to figure out the game mechanics, because again, I am not a gamer. But we got there. We got the loot, and we got into the next stage of the dungeon. And that's when the problems lie. Because this encounter below this little castle thing, you know, with the group that's in the corridor, yeah, I played that about 6 or 7 times. And then I rage quit. Yeah, that barbarian who kept throwing things really pissed me off. And so I didn't play the game for like 2 months. Whoops. It wasn't until I was chatting with my friend and I mentioned that I played Baldur's Gate 3 did he go, "Oh my god, I played that! What part did you get to? Have you finished your first run?" And I was like, "No, yeah, I rage quit." We got into the reason why, and then he actually told me where to find Astarion. So that night, I came home from my hangout with my friend, sparked up Baldur's Gate 3 again, and I found Astarion. Yes! I then went back to do the encounter that I was failing at, and I did it first time. So all I'm saying is Astarion is always going to be part of my party now because he feels like a good luck charm. Anyway, we found the Druid Grove and we learned about the Tiefling conflict, and as a Tiefling Druid, I was like, oh my god, this is like a serious plotline for me, oh my god. For some reason, I couldn't find Will during this section, but I'm starting to believe that it was actually just me being blind, but that's a whole other topic. I will say, as I was doing the Kagra mission quest thing, I was struggling really hard in the combat. I think it might have been potentially because I was underleveled going into encounters, or that I just really didn't know enough about D&D and D&D strategy to actually be able to get through these. But it was a real effort to try to not rage quit again, but at this point, because I was playing a Tiefling Druid, the fact that I had to rescue both the Tieflings and the Druids meant that I didn't. Like, I was already involved in my character. Like, I was like, I can't quit now! I can't quit now! I feel like the first couple levels in Act 1, you don't really see a lot of growth in, like, the power that you get, compared to, like, Act 2, Act 3, where you get, like, serious power-ups. So maybe it was that, or maybe it was that I was just picking to do the quests in the wrong order that I was supposed to do them in. Didn't quite figure that one out yet. But I found consulting Reddit and like the Wikipedia page actually helped me massively on trying to figure out how I was supposed to fight these things and specifically what they were immune to. I didn't know the examine button was in there until like Act 2, so don't even. It was also nice seeing other people struggling with certain things that I was also struggling with. Granted, it was a lot earlier version they were struggling with, but that doesn't matter, you know? Speaking of stupid, you know how I said meeting Gale was gonna bite me in the ass later? Yeah, so I ended up romancing him. I think it was because, like, the first scene that you get where it's just you two, I kept telling him to shut up, but I kept doing it in, like, a giggly schoolgirl way, like, shut up, kind of thing. So, yeah, there was no chance for me. Like, if you see Gale chatting my ear off, don't save me. I'm where I want to be. The problem that I found, though, was that Gale wanted to speak to me at the worst possible moments. Like, now is not a good time for telling me that you have a literal nuclear bomb in your chest. We're on the way to beat the hag. Like, bad timing, dog. I will say a very funny moment of me falling in love with Gale was when he died for the first time. I don't know if people have actually played or seen this scene, but you get like a whole cutscene on how you have to revive him and a normal revivify spell doesn't work. Now, I had a couple massive problems with this. It was 2 a.m. and I'm dyslexic. I was more stressed about Gale dying and incorrectly bringing him back than I was about my GCSE exams. I was seriously just taking photos of the screen so that I wouldn't forget any steps. I was so stressed. And then the cutscene ends, and then my entire party dies because we were stood in his necrotic aura and I had to reload. Oh, it was so funny. It was hilarious because it's 2 a.m. and I can't wake my parents up. But it's also horrible because I hadn't saved in an hour. So I had to go back, do the encounter with the paladins after you just saved Karlach, and then I had to let Gale die again. Just so I could get the cutscene, just so that my stress and me taking photos of the screen wasn't wasted. Anyway, he ended up being fine, and I was not, and then I went to bed, and it was like 4 a.m. at this point, and it was like, oh my god. I ended up doing the Githyanki Crush before I did the Underdark, and if you hate yourself, I really recommend doing it in this order. Fighting the Gith while being seriously underleveled was fun when you got the XP, but not fun when they kept kicking your ass every 5 minutes. The Githyanki Crush was also when I discovered that I'm a complete XP fiend. So, you know, when we get stuck at level 13, I was really disappointed. I did try and kill Astarion for the funny cutscene, where it's like, I was right there! Thing, but I ended up killing my entire party instead, so I just decided to actually complete the puzzle and get what I needed. I ended up giving the Blood of Lathander to Shadowheart, and it's actually fucking goated. Giving Shadowheart the Blood of Lathander when you're going into Act 2, oh, it was a godsend. Like, she had Spirit Guardians on, and the Blood of Lathander, so the Shadows just had no chance. But we're jumping ahead to Act 2, we need to go back to the Underdark. I then went to the Underdark via the Goblin Camp. I went through Saluna's palace? I think it's Saluna. I'm gonna call it for Saluna for the rest of this video, so apologies if it's wrong. And I didn't really explore the Underdark as much as I should have. I have arachnophobia, and I knew there were spiders in this game, and so I was terrified about where they might show up. It took me like maybe 3 attempts to save the Deep Gnomes, which, you know, I'm improving, this is great. But it was so funny to me because if you save the Deep Gnome that the goblins are torturing on the windmill, you can actually start up a banter with him. And it was one of the funniest things that I discovered, was that when you find him with the other Dark Gnomes, you can literally go up to him and be like, well, it seems like I keep having to save you. And then when you save him, he goes to the Last Light Inn, and you get to have the thing again. And then I killed his friend, so I never got any more of him, which I'm actually kind of sad about. If this was a D&D campaign, I would have 100% romanced him as an NPC. Like, he was hilarious. I loved him. The Underdark was actually the start of an accidental, unfortunate chain of events of me not exploring things that I deemed outside of the plot. But don't worry, that'll end when I get to Act 3. I will say I got like halfway around the Adamantium Forge and then got bored, so went back and then went to Act 2. So I don't even know what you can make at the Adamantium Forge. So yeah, I missed out about 70% of Act 2 because I really wanted to go do Shah's Temple. If I had realised that there was an achievement for saving all the tieflings, I would have spent more time in Act 2. but I didn't realise that until I was halfway through Act 3, and at that point all the tieflings were pretty much dead. I really enjoyed Act 2, and the aesthetics of a cleric running around with spirit guardians on. It just makes me want to play as a cleric in Baldur's Gate 3, because in Act 2, clerics are kind of OP. Shah's Temple was really good actually, and I can understand why I rushed myself to go get it. The Necromancer fucking pissed me off though. I went to the Night Song, he showed up, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then he kicked my ass, so I reloaded, went to find him, tried to kill him, failed, did this 4 more times, and then finally killed him, and then went back to the Night Song. So, I suck. The only way that I found that I could beat him was cheesing it slightly. If you stand on a platform and then go straight into the corner, him and the big other goon can't get you. And so this was the start of me learning to cheese Baldur's Gate 3. I beat Ketheric Thorm and his god in 1 run, which I was really happy about because that was the first time this has ever happened. However, when I was celebrating my victory and the fact that I had successfully run out of scale, Halson came to me and told me he was leaving my party. Yeah, so I went back and did his side quest. I just really wanted him in my party because at this point I was collecting companions like Pokemons. The only problem was that Jaheira died because I didn't add her to my party because I didn't know that was an option. So yeah, Jaheira was dead. And I never found Minsk. So I don't know how good of a Pokemon trainer I would be. Anyway, I completed his quest, found Arabella's parents, and then I told her this. I told her that they were dead, and then I never saw her again. So yeah, I was never getting the achievement of saving all the tieflings. I was sad actually that I never saw her again, because it took me until Act 3 to realise that she was the little girl that I saved, who had stolen the idol. I think it was also funny because Mole pretended to know me, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? I only recently found out that Mole's a girl! I think there's a load of aspects of Emerald Grove that I just didn't explore, just because I wanted the XP from other places. I actually don't have anything else to add to this Act 2 section, because like I said, I never explored it properly. I will say leveling up in this act felt like an actual achievement, and I don't know if it's because I was getting better at the game or because I just had better spells. And I'm starting to believe that it was the latter. After realizing that I was underexploring in Act 2, I was determined to make sure I explored every aspect of Act 3. That didn't happen, mainly because in the beginning of Act 3, you're in that little village. And so, I went to the circus, I found Tara, and then I left. I didn't know that there was supposed to be a small group of people there who kind of were important to Astarion's plot. I didn't know that until they showed up, and I was like, who the fuck are these guys? This was mainly because I actually wanted to get on to Baldur's Gate so that I could do Astarion and Shadowheart's arcs, I guess, because I love them dearly. They are my Pookies. No one says Pookie anymore. They're my babies, and I love them so much. I did accidentally kill... I say accidentally. I killed one of the robots with Gale by using the lightning bolt, and then I got 500 XP from it. And that's when I realized that killing the robots was indeed a gold mine. So, imagine my surprise when I maxed out at level 13. Anyway, I really loved the different storylines that were happening in Act 3. There was so much going on. The mystery with the Baal cult was a personal favourite because I love myself a mystery. It does suck though that there was only one attempt at killing someone, but that might have been because I killed them too early. I haven't figured that out yet. After doing that, I then went on and found the Shah's Temple thing at the House of Loss. I did like this fight, but I did get TPK'd 3 times. And that was before I realized that I could use the steps to my advantage. And then I just like did one of, I think it was like Ice Storm, and I just put ice all over the floor. And then they'd all try and they'd get prone. And then I'd hit them with another round of Ice Storm. So not only was I re-proning them, but I was also taking out like a quarter of all of their health. It took me maybe like 40 minutes IRL to defeat them using this strategy. But it was the first time that I felt genuinely proud of myself for being able to figure out this strategy and executing it really well. I then came across Shadowheart's parents. And I really didn't know how this scene was supposed to go, and after googling it a bit, it kind of seemed like there was no real right answer. So in the end, I kind of let her save her parents. And after witnessing the epilogue, I really think this was the best decision for her, because she gets to basically have her childhood again. You know, she gets to figure out that she has loving parents and figure out new hobbies and things like that. And I don't know what it's like, obviously, if she doesn't save her parents, but I really loved the way that she was written when she did save her parents, so. And then I went on to the Iron Throne. Now, all over my socials, on all of the Baldur's Gate 3 things I was looking at, they all said that the Iron Throne was really difficult. So I literally prepped myself to lock in. And then I saved Will's dad and managed to save everyone bar 2 people and my party. But, you know, that's on me. I got too ambitious with 1 round left, and I was like, oh, it's okay, we've got 1 round and then the final round. No, 1 round left means 1 round left, like that's the end. So, yeah, Gale, Shadowheart, and Astarion all died. And it wasn't until I was talking to someone that I realized that my run was so easy because I didn't make Will break his pact with Minzora. The main reason I didn't do that was because I had faith that his father would be able to see through the fact that he's made himself this devil or demon or whatever he was, and be able to see that he was doing things for good. And obviously Will was very set on keeping his powers. On some of the stories that I heard from him was that he regretted making the deal, but he didn't regret the power that he had. So I was like, maybe we should keep the deal. But also, I kept the deal because I needed it marked on my map. So yeah, that's why my Iron Throne was really easy, because Minzora showed up, helped me out, and then left. And I was like, nice. I will say that I have found a small bug in the Iron Throne bit. Like I said earlier, I had given Shadowheart the Blood of Lathander, and it has this cool aspect of if you get downed, it gives you 5 extra hit points. So it like resurrects everyone around you as well. So Gale, Astarion, and Shadowheart all died in the Iron Throne. And when I got Withers to resurrect them, Shadowheart wasn't there. So I went on this mission across the city to find where the 2 other bodies were going to wash up in order to save Shadowheart. And then when I got there, she was alive and she had 1 HP. Now I was like, this is really weird. This is very weird. When I could heal her, I couldn't use a Revivify spell on her, and I could interact with her. But the problem was, when I went to click on her on the small bar on the side, it said that she was dead. I think specifically it said, you cannot control this character, they are dead, or something along those lines. And I was like, but she's alive, she's standing there. So I reloaded, and it was fine, she was fixed. But yeah, small bug. Larian, you're not watching this, but if you are, I found a bug. I then went to Cazador. Let's just say, if I wasn't over 100 hours deep into this run, I would have rage quit. This fight took me 6 IRL hours to complete, right? And I like joking around when I'm playing this game. I like to pretend I'm streaming because I'm sad and I have no friends. But after 2 hours of doing this, I stopped. I was dead-faced. I can't even say I was locked in because it was against my will. I remember the moment that I woke up and realized that we were winning. I had my Tav and Gale teaming up against this wizard skeleton, which made sense because they were both magic users. I then had Shadowheart unbinding Astarion, and then Astarion would then take a hit on Cazador, and then Cazador would rebind him. And this was all in like a little triangle in the corner where Astarion would get bound. And I remember waking up and saving, and I was like, oh my god, I'm winning. And then I sighed when I won. I literally had to shut down the game after I finished it. I was so exhausted. But then I continued on, and then I realized how unbalanced that fight was. For the Act 3 bosses, I did them in the order of Cazador, the Worm, Raphael, Gortash, then Orin. The Worm took me maybe 2 TPKs and 3 reloads, only because I kept accidentally getting myself thrown off the map, and I was like, I have not got time to resurrect myself, we're just reloading. The Raphael fight was decent. I wouldn't say it was easy. It took me about 4 reloads and ended up summoning Diva. I also took control of one of his demon things. And then it was fine, you know, like, that was easy. Art of War, the spell, crazy. It does crazy things on those pillars. And then it was time for Gortash. And I'm not even lying when I tell you that it took me one run to beat him. I ran through Gortash. And the same thing happened with Orin. So why the fuck was Cazador so difficult? Please, Lorian, explain this to me. Explain to my non-gamer brain how your actual bosses of the story were easier than the side bosses. Like, is that a common thing in games? Is that just something I'm not aware of? Anyway, I fucking nailed the final battle. Just saying. I also want to mention that throughout this entire run, I had not put a single worm in my head. Like, this was all, like, no one had anything in their heads. There was no psionic barriers and nothing. I was doing this just straight cut. These guys are what they are. However, once I had turned Orpheus into a mind flayer and played as him, I realized that they're really overpowered. And so maybe not doing the worm thing was kind of a mistake. Anyway, I reloaded that twice, but that's just because I got thrown off the map and I wanted everyone in the final cutscene. That's literally it. I could have completed this easy peasy, I just didn't want to. Also, my strategy for taking down the Elder Brain was fucking phenomenal, right? You summon the fire, you summon the dragon to get fire down, and you take out the line of Dream Guardians, right? And if they move, they get fire damage again, which basically just takes them out without their go happening. Then you summon some disposable guards in order to distract the dragon as you start making your way up to where the mind flayers are. Once those guards are dead, you then summon the Night Song to distract the dragon, because the Night Song cannot die. And then, if you have Shadowheart on your team, or a cleric or someone who can summon things, you summon Diva, right? And then you have those three smiting this dragon too. Those two smiting this dragon. And boom, you're at the brain and you have one turn until the missiles start getting launched. I'm fucking awesome. I don't remember if I've talked in depth about the companions yet, and I'm not gonna go back and read my 4K YouTube script, which is just here. Anyway, I had Astarion, Gale, and Shadowheart as my party, and I was romancing Gale. Romancing Gale came as a bit of surprise to me, because I didn't know who he was when I started the game. I was obviously aware of Astarion, and I was aware that there was a goth princess, which I then assumed was Shadowheart. So when I first met him, I thought he was kind of cool. You know, he seemed smart enough, but also he said things weirdly. Like, just say you've got a worm in the eye, you don't need the whole paragraph. I think the moment I realized that I could fall in love with him, I could fall in love with him like he's a real person. But yeah, the moment I realized that he would be fun to romance was the moment that you share a moment with magic with him. And the ironic thing was, I didn't even do that first. I saw a YouTube clip of someone doing it and I went, I'm sold. We're romancing the wizard. I found quickly that I wanted to speak to him and then regretted it instantly when he kept yapping. I wish I could count the times that I told him to shut up when it was his turn in combat. Like, every time he goes, I speak, they burn. Like, shut up, dude. No one cares. Just cast the fireball. To me, Romancing Gale was very much reminiscent of like a slow burn romance book. And it was sweet, and it was kind of fun, and well written. So thank you, writers. Thank you, Tim Downey, and whoever motion captioned him. You guys did a wonderful job and have ruined my life forever. I will say, though, I'm currently in the middle of a run where I am finally romancing Astarion. And if you're not actively romancing Gale, or you have him in your party, he is the most annoying piece of shit you have ever met. I'm so serious. And this is coming from someone who loves him dearly, right? He is so annoying and impatient. And it was such a crazy experience to go from, oh my god, shut up, to, oh my god, shut up. But that experience to me is why I can see myself playing this game for like the rest of my life. Maybe not the rest of my life, that's a big extreme. But each character is so different depending on who you have in your party. And it's crazy. In conclusion, this game is extremely long. If I wasn't a fan of D&D and high fantasy, then I probably would have quit around Act 1, but for real, like, I wouldn't have come back. And I think a lot of people may have actually done that, considering I think only 23% of people have the achievement for completing the game. But now it is time for a short segment of where I compliment people. The layout of the UI was incredible and incredibly easy to understand on a PC. Having all the actions, bonus actions, and spells at the bottom was really good, especially the fact that you could sort it. I liked sorting all of my actions and then all of my spells separately, and then having the party on the left and then the encounters at the top. It was really good. It was very inspired, very pretty, and very easy to understand. Being able to figure out how the game works, especially during levels 1 and 3, was a massive help. You know, they kind of walk you through the spells, how to do them, how to jump, how to dash, all these kind of fun things, and it helps to really get you to have a clear grasp on the game and how it's played, especially as a new person. I remember I was in a call with my friends during the House of Loss, and she was watching me play and she was like, this is so confusing. And I was at level 10 at that point, so I had a fuck ton of spells. But it made me realize that you really watch that progression as you're playing the game, and the only reason you can understand it is because you started at level 1, which I thought was actually kind of inspired, I guess, again. I think it was also a real testament to how much care was put into this game as well. Obviously, the writing and the acting was phenomenal, and I can't wait to keep making tabs so that I can romance more characters and, you know, see how much care was put into each character. I could only play on low graphics because my graphics card was years out of date, so I didn't really get to see the full experience of the cutscenes. One of the main ones was Gortash and Orin right at the beginning of Act 3. They were just on a blue hellscape. There was nothing but them, which I found hilarious, actually. I have since updated my graphics card, and all the graphics are fine. I think I need to update my processor as well so that they can load quicker. I'm still up in the air on whether I want to make my own game mode, because I still am finding the encounters a little bit difficult. But I think based on my newest run, I think that I was under level in a lot of the ones that I was doing, and now I'm over level in some of them, and it makes it a lot easier to just like wipe out everyone, even if my strategy isn't the greatest. So I'll guess I'll, you know, figure that out with other tabs and such. Speaking of my next campaign, I'm in the middle of playing a half-elf bard, again, bisexual stereotype, and I'm also romancing a Astarion, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I am struggling though to get my approval rating higher than 45. Not quite sure how I'm doing that, but I am actually now starting to follow tutorials so that he can love me. Please love me. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun, and it's fun seeing this version of Astarion, especially having all the romance scenes and such, and seeing how fake he was, because when you're having him as your companion but not romancing him, you kind of get fake, then he's open to you, and you don't really get the middle part that you get with romancing him. So if you liked hearing me ramble about me playing this game and how well I think they did as a non-gamer, consider checking out my animatic that I did about my tab's backstory. If not, maybe I'll see you in my next video.